It's time for City Beat, your source for all the latest news on the city of Thompson. Only on 102.9 CHTM, your radio station.
Welcome to City Beat for January 12th, 1917. Well, holy crow, 2017. It's been a long time since I've done this. So I'm Sue O'Brien from 102.9 CHTM, and my guest is Mayor Dennis Fenske. Hi, Dennis.
Good morning.
Good thing you're laughing. Okay. Oh, it's pretty cold out there. You're lucky you can laugh. So just a reminder to listeners, if you want to ask a question of the mayor, you can call in 677-8181. We'd be happy to take your call, but it's also a better idea to email your questions in ahead of time to CHTMnews@arcticradio.ca. So, Dennis, I was at the Chamber of Commerce meeting yesterday, and the guest speaker was Chief Inspector Kevin Lewis with the Thompson RCMP. Mm-hmm. He was sharing some stats from 2016 and some of the activities that the RCMP were involved with last year. Has City Council seen a report yet or an update on?
Yeah. So the relationship with the RCMP is really good, especially with Inspector Lewis. We have a public safety meeting that happens every month, and either Inspector Lewis or the Staff Sergeant Colby comes and presents the stats on a monthly basis, and then we get a cumulative amount at the end of the year. We get a year-end report for the stats that Inspector Lewis would have spoken about. And even at the beginning of the year, we do what's called a community policing meeting with the RCMP and council members of Public Safety Committee to set the goals for the upcoming year for community policing. So yeah, we're well informed of the stats on a monthly basis and as an overall yearly basis as well.
Okay. I know that he was trying to not focus on the bad. I mean, he was obviously giving crime statistics and stuff like that. So we know how many break-and-enters, thefts, assaults, that kind of stuff. But he was also talking about some of the positive things that have gone on, their students that they had in the summer, fundraising and different things that they've been involved with. But I know that there were a couple things that particularly stuck out to me. And those were the numbers for prisoners held over the year. That was 6,100.
Yep.
Seemed... I don't know, I guess it seemed a lot when you're considering we're living in a community of 13,000. I mean, it's like half the people almost being in jail at some point in time. And we know that's not the case, but just number-wise. And there were 4,450 incidents of public disorders. And so those are mostly issues occurring in the downtown core.
Correct.
And he said that number was up from the year before, probably by about a couple hundred incidents. So, are you aware, did they kind of explain why those numbers are crawling up like that?
Oh, absolutely. And in the first case, in regards to the prisoners lodged, we are a lodging system for transfer of people to court dates and or to other facilities. So we are kind of like a service center from that perspective. So those numbers aren't alarming from that perspective. The increase in the public disruption, those numbers basically are creeping up because we have a better reporting strategy, as well as we also have the community safety officers. So where RCMP in the past were responding and as they could, based on a priority basis, with the implementation of the CSO program, we can now deal with public disturbances from a CSO perspective. They can transport to the public safety building and process, which it increases the stats, but it's a difference of whether an RCMP member is handling that case or whether a CSO person is handling that. So the numbers are increasing because we have 8 more people on the ground, and so that's not alarming to that extent. It still identifies, and we all know we have a social issue in the downtown area, and we have a number of initiatives in play to deal with that, one of which is the CSO program. And going back to the initial design of the program, and taking a statement from the former police chief in Prince Albert, where we took the model from, and who is now the Chief Justice for the province of Saskatchewan. Basically, you can't arrest your way out of a social situation. But there are instances where persons are doing harm to themselves or doing harm to each other that you need to intervene. So that's where the numbers are creeping up, is because we have more people on the ground, CSOs, dealing with those situations, while RCMP deal with situations that are more priority basis based on the RCMP.
Okay, and so Project Northern Doorway removed approximately 16 homeless people, right, from the mix a couple years back, and reduce the demand on city resources such as, the RCMP, the EMS, the hospital, and so on. That was the main purpose of that project, keeping, people, give them a roof over their head and kind of help them combat some of the problems and issues that they were facing. Is there maybe reason to believe that there's another core group that's kind of replaced them, that is taking up a lot of resources at all? Has anything been identified or talked about? Because I know initially there was a number of people that were were recognized as
absolutely.
taking up a lot of those resources. What about those folks?
Yeah. So you're right. The Project Northern Doorway, we identified in total about 28 high users of all the social services and RCMP services, mental health, hospital, fire and paramedic services as well. And 16 of those are housed at the Project Northern Doorway, and there's others within the community, other transitional housing. And so from that perspective, those users have reduced the impact on those social services. But you're quite correct, is that there is, the number will never get to zero. There is a movement of other people, other identifiers that have basically have similar issues. And so we're dealing with those as well. So initially, the high-risk users of the facilities have been identified. We're in the medium risk to low risk now, which impacts the numbers on a monthly basis that the RCMP and the CSOs are reporting. But we are seeing a reduction in the high risk and savings in the healthcare costs and the mental health costs. An example is, from the city's perspective, we run a cold weather policy in regards to minus 35. We open up the outdoor rink facilities to take the overflow from the shelter, which is normally 24 beds. Mm-hmm. When we implemented the Project Northern Doorway, prior to that, we were seeing 600 to 700 uses per year, per season. And until this last cold snap, we've reduced to less than 50. And that's because the main high-risk users have housing and have alternative housing. So that's an impact where we've seen a reduction from the high-risk offenders that have been housed at Project Northern Doorway.
Okay. And is there likely going to be anything like Project Northern Doorway come up again? Is there, talk of another unit perhaps?
Absolutely. There is the big picture that we talked about 5 years ago was called Main Street North, and it's taken on the model of Main Street project that's in Winnipeg. And so we would like to see a Main Street North. Fortunately, in Winnipeg, they have the services all under one roof, where there is holding cells for people who are in distress. There is transitional housing. There's a soup kitchen set up for daily intakes. There's health services and that type of situation. We have those services within our community, but they're spread out throughout different agencies. So the long-term plan is to have a bricks and mortar shelter, Main Street North type program, where we can provide all of those services under one roof. There is a group ongoing right now, headed by John Donovan, who's doing the coordination from that on a volunteer basis, basically looking at coordinating those services to ensure that the services are available. But the long term is how can we bring them all together, either under one or a couple of roofs, rather than 6 or 7 different roofs that they are now.
Okay, all right. And something like that, like you said, John Donovan is kind of heading this. Like, would he be the one who'd kind of take the initiative on that, like to actually get another bricks and mortar place going?
Well, I think it's a group effort from all the organizations in the community. We would lobby, and City of Thompson would be part of that lobby group with the province to work towards receiving funding or presenting plans for that to that extent. Independent of that, there is a project ongoing by the province of Manitoba through Manitoba Housing at 128 Hemlock. There's been in the City of Thompson council chambers, the zonings have gone through, and so we're looking at that project coming forward in 2017, where what was previously a daycare would be renovated, and I'm not sure the number of suites that it involves, but it's basically transitional housing to again assist in the affordable housing that we lack in Thompson.
Okay, and would that any of that transitional housing be available, say, to women and children who are escaping domestic violence? Because I know that the Thompson Crisis Center is desperately looking for more transitional housing.
Absolutely, and different than 95 Cree Road. This is not a proposed damp house. This is transitional housing to meet exactly the needs that you've talking about. Definitely, the Women's Crisis Center is overburdened with the types of facilities that they require for the caseloads that they have, and so hopefully this will help that out. There are other agencies that are in the same boat that really just don't have the physical capabilities of handling the caseloads that they're dealing with. So.
Okay. All right. And so on a lighter note, I know we have Winterfest is coming up, and boy, we've got winter.
Absolutely.
We have lots of winter and the nice cold weather that goes with it. So I know Winterfest has really kind of morphed a lot since I know when we moved to the city, it was, one big bang up weekend in February. And then after a while, it went to some weekend activities throughout the month of February for 2-3 years. Then we had it the 1 year it was in March to go with hometown hockey, and then now it's gone back to the full weekend of events again.
Correct. Yep. And so Councillor Dennis Foley is chair of the Public or Community Rec Services Committee, is part of that organizing group along with our city staff to work with the volunteers. So Winterfest is upcoming, and it's as you mentioned, it's morphed back into that weekend event, that centralized weekend event. What I understand from the last recreation meeting is that it's coming together well, and the plans are coming together. So we look forward to a break in the weather for number one, and then a very entertaining weekend for Winterfest.
Okay, and what are the dates? Do you know?
Actually, I don't know off the top of my head.
I think it's usually the first weekend and first full weekend in February.
It's in February, absolutely.
We'll get back to you on that anyway. Yeah. All right, so is there anything else coming up in the community this week that you'd like us to know about?
There's the Prince Berkshire hockey tournament this weekend. Be sure if you're out and about and you want to drop into the VRCC, there's some great hockey happening there. Just from a safety perspective, as you mentioned, we're in a really big cold temp. The province of Manitoba is. And so two things. One, anybody traveling, think about it if you really have to go. If not, make sure you're well prepared and that your vehicle is well serviced. You have a survival kit with clothing, extra food in the vehicle when you leave. And secondly, to that, don't forget about pets. Pets are very vulnerable in this type of weather. I know I have a lab dog that lasts about 10 minutes outside, and he's a big dog. So anybody with smaller pets, make sure that you are taking care of them and putting them out when they need to, but make sure to bring them in as quick as you can as well.
And likewise for the kids.
Absolutely.
That's right. And so just a reminder to the public that the next City Council meeting is this coming Monday at 7 p.m. So I encourage people to come on out to see what happens at a meeting and familiarize yourselves with the processes and protocols that take place. So thanks to Mayor Fenske for joining us again today for this edition of City Beat. That's right. I'm sleepy. I'm Sue O'Brien.